Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Head to Head Sports. I am your host, Brian Parker, along with my co-host, Mr. Randall Hargrove. How you doing, sir?
I am better, a little better.
Yeah, you sitting a little bit more upright.
Yeah, still hurts like hell to move around and laugh, but I'm
Oh,
here.
Lord. Well, listen, I don't know if I can promise not to make you laugh because, man, after seeing this week of playoff football and watching the Cowboys lose miserably.
Can I just do something right quick before we even start? I have to do this, man.
You know, I watched that like 3 times.
Y'all ain't working there. That's what that look is. That's what that look is right there. Leave it to the sister to be real, right? You see that? Oh, she's showing
They started playing the music.
brother right
Oh man, look,
Bruh, I watched that like 3 times back to back. I sent it to my wife and she was hollering because I was telling her as I was watching the game, even with like 8 minutes to go, they were panning people. People were crying. The one lady with the just rolling the eyes, like he was like, "Oh, we're about to do this again this year." If that was a meme, it was just, you know, I got to start with the Dallas freaking Cowboys
because we start
because I told him, I tried to tell him, Rand, every single year they do this. And I don't want anybody thinking that I piggyback off of Stephen A. Smith. I love Stephen A. when he talks about the Cowboys and he put on his Southern Steve with the cigar and the hat. But listen, I've been saying this forever too, is that it wouldn't be so bad about the Cowboys except for their fans and this delusion that because we step on the field and we quote unquote America's team. First of all, who the hell told y'all America's team? Who gave y'all that? You know, that's almost like when somebody called themselves Big Daddy and you like, okay, did you give yourself that name? Or is that some reputable people that gave you that name because of some attributes or something? So I think, you know, they just sometimes you believe your own hype, you smell yourself, and even though you stink, you can't smell it. And I kept warning Cowboy fans all freaking year long. I got one that as soon as I posted on Sunday, he was all over it. He's one of my co-hosts on the other show. And, you know, he told me he's one of the more sensible Cowboy fans. And I'm like, yeah, you're a little bit more measured than most Cowboy fans. But at the core, y'all have this belief that there's an inherent entitlement to go into the Super Bowl. Now, only 2 teams get to go to the Super Bowl every year. But the reason people don't like Cowboy fans is because you think you always one of those 2. Even when, and there's nothing wrong with being hopeful for your team. You should want to have success. Your goal every year should be the Super Bowl, at least the team. As a fan, and it is short for fanatic, I get that. But sometimes you can take fanatic to straight delusional, where there's nothing that your team is doing to make you warrant saying we're going to the Super Bowl. But Cowboy fans all year long, they were 6-0 against the NFC least. This fool on my page wanting to tell me, hey, well, we won our division. You won the worst division in football.
Mm-hmm.
And you want to hang your hat on that? Your team wasn't built for the NFC East. Your team was supposed to be built to go deep into the playoffs and contend for a Super Bowl, but you can't even get out of the wild card.
The Dallas Cowboys have the most. The Dallas Cowboys have the most regular season Super Bowls in the history of the league.
Because it's every week. It's every time they play somebody in the NFC East. You were 6-0 against the NFC East, but then against the rest of the league, what was it then? You were 6 and what is it? So what they end up 12-5. So you were 6-5.
Yeah.
So you were barely 500 outside of your division. So yeah, if you tell most teams that you're going to win all of your divisional games, and now you just got to go out and string together a couple of wins outside of your division, I mean, you're building in 6 wins a year.
Yeah. Reminds me of what the Patriots used to do back in the day by feasting on the old AFC
Yes.
East. But in this case, at least the Patriots can win outside of the East. Dallas struggles. But the same as you, what did I say all year long? I said the first time that they ran into a physical football team, they was going to pack their bags and they would be home. I did not realize that it would be San Francisco.
Right.
They're all physical. I thought it would be more like the Rams of Green Bay. But San Fran put it to them. They packed their bags and they've gone home. I've been looking for Cowboy fans all week long. I can't find them nowhere.
Well, I tell you, they in the witness protection program all over again. You ain't gonna hear nothing about Cowboy fans again until probably July when training camp start, and they gonna swear up and down. And Rand, Lord knows, let them win all 3 playoff preseason games.
It starts. So yeah. You know how this.
Let them start winning preseason games, Rand.
You know
And we'll be in the same situation all over again. Let me see. Anthony says, I think the Cowboys' problem is not the coach. It's Kellen Moore. He's the one calling the plays and stuff. And then Brad says, wild card was not the wild card. Frisco is that team nobody wants to play. They are healthy. Would not be surprised if they beat the Packers this weekend. Well, Brad, I'm going to take your comment first. Absolutely right. That was, and to Cowboys fans' dismay, leading up until the game, the biggest story out there, arguably, was, hey, which team is more vulnerable than the rest to lose in the playoffs? And the Cowboys were number one because everybody said, yeah, San Francisco, and it's always with the caveat, as long as Jimmy G don't throw the game away, which he tried.
He tried.
He tried his best to give it to you, Cowboy fans. He tried. He tried. And I'm sitting there going, okay, as long as Jimmy G doesn't throw the game away, there's no way you're going to be able to match that team's physicality, because everybody knows that San Francisco is not going to post a shootout against you. They're just going to hit you in the mouth like a bully would, and they're going to see your resolve. They're going to see, are you going to hit back harder, or are you going to recoil and curl into a little ball and suck on your thumb? And I did not see a running game. So now to Anthony's point, he said they do. Brad said they do have a good team. They'll be back. They always come back, Brad. And every time they beat on Washington, they beat on Philly, and they beat on the Giants. Now they proclaim themselves to be world beaters, and they going for the chip. And then they blow up like they normally do. Now this, I will give it to them this time. It took all the way till January for it to happen. Normally happens in October. When they go like 0-4 in October, and basically the season, not October, November, 0-4 in November, including the Thanksgiving game, and they just fall apart. And everybody wants to blame Jason Garrett, who isn't there anymore. But now Mike McCarthy is probably going to be the biggest finger pointing. But anyway, it was more so that San Francisco hit them. Dallas didn't respond. And there's a lot of other things, Rand, that contributed to this loss, even though most people want to focus on the last 14 seconds of the game. I don't even think that's why they lost the game. I think the last 14 seconds pointed to why the whole season had its problems that were never addressed. The last 14 seconds was a culmination of everything else that went on, including clock management, knowing the rules of the game, knowing that the ref has to touch the ball and spot it, that you just can't count on the fact that, okay, I can run the draw, I can run and get all these yards and get down, which you slid, which ran even more time. Now the ref has to catch up with you. Y'all, so you practice that, but did you practice it with referees at your practice and counting on the fact that they have to they chase the play, they have to spot the ball. When you got up, you did not look for a ref. You know, normally when somebody gets up, first thing they do is they toss the ball to the ref so the ref can spot the ball. Did not do that. He tried to spot it himself. Okay, when does that happen? What other play do you do where you spot the ball where you think the ball goes? Who does that?
Nobody does that. And, you talk about the 14 seconds. Let's talk about the other 14. How about the 14 penalties that kept giving San Francisco first downs? Dallas is undisciplined football team, man. That is undisciplined football. Came back to bite them. And I think it's ridiculous for Dak and the head coach to sit up here and want to blame the referees for their woes. It's their own problem. They did it to themselves. They always do it to themselves.
Yep. Yeah, you don't know what they're going to end up doing, but they're going to end up doing something. And see, what people got to realize is this. Listen, I'm not mad about the play, the draw. It's he tried to get too many. He got too greedy. You got to know that if I got 14 seconds, I can't go from the 50 to the 25-yard line. Maybe I go down at the 35. Maybe I go down at the 30. But you got too greedy. You didn't leave yourself. And then people got to understand this too. There was no guarantee that even if they gotten that one play off, that they were going to pull a
Hail Mary from the 35-yard line.
Yeah, like my man did from the Chargers the week before to get them into overtime. There's no guarantee that play would have worked out anyway. And I know they're going to say, well, Brian, they just needed a chance. Okay, you needed a chance with 14 seconds to go. What in the hell did you do for the first 59 minutes and 45 seconds of the game?
Took you that long.
Even Jerry Jones said it shouldn't have even took that. People talking about, I thought Dallas was better. Dallas was the better team. Y'all wouldn't have been waiting for the last 14 seconds to prove it. Brad says, okay, I'm sorry. Brad said they had a good team. Anthony, Kellen Moore had the top 10 offense every year and still bad in the playoffs. That's Jerry Jones's pet. Well, it is. And Kellen Moore is getting inquiries about coaching positions and things like that. I don't honestly believe. Oh, what's up, Sean? I honestly don't believe just because you're a great coordinator means you're going to be a great coach. I've never understood where they get that from. Yeah, you had a high-powered offense because you had a bunch of names that do well in the regular season. Yeah, Amari Cooper, Zeke, Tony Pollard, Gallup, who was hurt, CeeDee Lamb. They play in these regular season games, but when the lights get real bright, it's about showing up in the playoffs, Rand. It ain't about what you did in the regular season. When the postseason starts, your record is 0-0. And the Cowboys walk in thinking that they still 12-5.
Yeah.
Every team knows that when the playoffs start, you 0-0. It's a totally new season. But they think they come in there with their preseason wins. They come in there with their regular season wins. God, Rand, they come in there with the NFC least division championship like it's a belt. And they think that's supposed to scare somebody. Yeah. And the 49ers said, I ain't looking at all of that. We about to punch you in the mouth and see what you're going to do. And Lord knows there was a Deebo Samuel out there. And Deebo just kept punching him in the mouth too. But the thing that I like about San Francisco Rams, it's not just the offensive line that will punch you in the mouth. The receivers will punch you in the mouth. The running backs will punch you in the mouth. It's truly a physical team because they have that whole unit out there believing we're just going to out physical you and put you into submission. We're going to wear you out for 60 minutes by putting our hands on you all game. That's what they do.
Yeah, and that's why I said, as soon as Dallas sees Tampa Bay, they're out. Look at Tampa. Strong defensive line, strong offensive line.
Yep.
As soon as they see Green Bay, they're out. Same thing with Green Bay. Tough outdoor team, used to playing in the elements, used to playing in freezing weather and whatnot. I knew Dallas would be out if they faced them. The Rams, even tough ass defensive line.
Yep.
Can't run against them, make you pass against them, and maybe
Mm-hmm.
even their defensive backs are physical. So, I knew Dallas would be out the first time they faced a physical team. Dallas is finesse. Dallas is pretty. Dallas has some nice plays, but Dallas ain't built for playoff football, man.
Nope, not at all. And when it came to the running game, non-existent. Now, to Anthony's point, when he talks about Kellen Moore, I do put a little bit on Kellen Moore because Dak threw that ball 43 times. He only hit 23 of them. Ezekiel Elliott, 12 carries for 31 yards. That ain't going to get it done. You're not going to be able – if you want to sit there and wear a team out, you've got to control time of possession. Zeke had 31 yards. Dak ran for 27. Of course, a lot of that was at the end. Pollard, 14 yards running. CeeDee Lamb, 5 yards running. Your run game was non-existent. And then when you look at – now, time of possession was a little bit more even. San Francisco had for almost 34 minutes. Dallas right at 26 minutes. But Dallas has to decide, Rand, their identity. And I say this for any team out there. I even said it for my Panthers. When you don't know who you are, you won't go anywhere. When you can't decide what kind of team you're going to be, then you have no team. You have no identity. You don't know what you are. Are you a running team? Are you a passing team? Because the stats show that normally when they get over 100 yards rushing, Dak is undefeated. But when he has to pass and they don't get 100 yards rushing, they lose a lot more games.
And I put that on Kellen Moore too. But a lot of times in the postseason, especially these young offensive coordinators that are auditioning for head coach jobs and trying to put a little glitz on their name, they want to go out there and they want to light it up to show
trying to get cute.
Yeah, I can light it up. Well, this time did not work out for you.
Nope.
Dak had a bad game. Receivers didn't show up, and you didn't give your runners enough opportunities.
Yeah. And look, they could talk about them last 14 seconds. Hey, what happened with the fake punt? So you do a fake punt, you throw it. It was a great fake. But then immediately after that, you line right back up again in punt formation. What in the hell was that? So they try to point to just the last things of the game, and I'm like, you know what? There at no point in that game did Dallas ever seize momentum. And normally when you're down and you're trying to come back, there's one or two things that can happen. Either you can seize the momentum and overcome your deficit, or you spend so much energy trying to overcome that deficit, you still fall short. And to me, it felt like the latter. It felt more like, okay, it was going to take everything to fall into place perfectly for you to fully come back. And that was going to take a lot of balls bouncing your way, just things lining up, the football guys looking down and saying, no, we still think 1995 should be the last time you've been to the Super Bowl. And the last thing that I will say on this, Ram, as I had to think about it, as my fellow co-host tried to, and this is what people like to do. They like to point out history to you. Talking about, well, what has your team done, meaning the Panthers? This is going to be my answer to him once and for all. Between the Panthers and the Cowboys, since the last time the Cowboys went to the Super Bowl, the Panthers have been there twice.
Yeah.
If you want to talk about history. Now, they didn't win, but they've been there twice since the last time you've been. So if you want to ask me about regular season records and stuff like that, hey, I got to bow down to you. But if the goal isn't to just win division titles, but to advance through the playoffs, if you want to say, hey, since 1995, who've been the most successful team between the Panthers and the Cowboys? Well, it ain't even close. So I don't even know if you want to have that argument, partner.
The Panthers have more hardware in their hardware case than the Dallas Cowboys since the Panthers came into existence. I know that's a tough pill for Dallas fans to swallow, but it's the truth.
It's the truth.
It's
the truth. But you know, they everything bigger in Big D, even when it's a big L. So y'all, you're gonna have to eat it. Don't get mad that people are sitting there celebrating. Anthony said that Zeke and Cooper and D-Law are America's most wanted for stealing money from the Cowboys. Ain't that the truth? Because as soon as you pay them, they disappear. And if I'm not mistaken, either Amari is in the last year of that extension, or this was it. I think he's in the going into the last one, that $100 million that they gave him. So we'll have to see what's going to happen as a result of that. And then Anthony says, after last weekend, I'm thinking to myself, the NFC East sucks. Shaking it. Well, Anthony, I don't know what took you so long to realize that, but we kind of knew that before the season started.
Oh yeah, we called that one. I think you did.
Listen, I know you're a Washington fan, and I know that the Eagles show promise at the end of the year, and you know I'll keep harping on the fact that Sirianni was just too late to the game to use his runners the way that he should have, and that could have had a totally different outcome on his team. I don't necessarily think the outcome would have changed because for a lot of these teams, when you have a first-year quarterback and it's their first time in the playoffs, you know, again, it's different. I don't fault Jalen Hurts. I don't fault Kyler Murray. You know, them likes is a little bit different. The weight on your shoulders feel a little bit different. You know, hell, Matthew Stafford didn't win his first playoff game until the other day. So listen, your team, if you're Philly, your team had a great second half of the season. If you're Arizona, it was a up and down season. That's kind of been Cliff Kingsbury thing. But this is what we try to explain to you guys is that regular seasons don't mean anything. You know, it's just like in the NBA where we talk about these 50-win teams and they get bounced in the first round of the playoffs. You know, hey, it's nice. It looks good. Hang your banner all you want, but that's not the banners that you want. And Cowboy fans trying to bring up winning the NFC East is almost like saying that I didn't date the fattest girl in school. I mean, okay, if that's where you're going with it, all right, I guess. But it just makes you look really sad because 1 minute, hey Bianca, how you doing? But you end up looking sad because since the beginning of the season, y'all kept talking about how you're going to make a deep run in the playoffs, and this team is different, and defense is better, and the offense this, and we going to do this, and this is our year. And Michael Irvin, after y'all beat up on Sisters of the Poor, tells Stephen A. Smith on First Take, I'm watching it live. I'm going to go ahead and tell my fans out there, go ahead and buy your tickets to SoFi. And I'm looking at him like, what? Don't, Michael Irvin, please don't tell these people that. They're already delusional. And they hear you say that, they're going to really believe that they're going to SoFi. And at that time, I'm thinking, Rand, well, what about the Rams? What about the Bucks? What about the Chargers? What, you know, I'm like, what about all these teams? And I'm going, they might have something to say about that, especially Green Bay. They might have something to say about that going through the NFC. That I don't think you can just say that with that kind of arrogance like that, and you still had like 8-9 games to go. And he'd already said, yeah, this is going to be the year. Go ahead and buy your tickets. I'm like, whoa, that was pretty heavy.
Probably why those fans were in such distress. They really believed this year was the year. But, you know, you talking about high school, I mean, there just comes a certain time and place in life where people no longer care what you did in high school. They want to see what you've done recently. What have you done for me lately?
Exactly.
Cowboys, you've not done anything for your fan base lately.
Always empty promises, a whole lot of hope that, I mean, I'll give it to them. They can pull hope almost out of nothing. because when I'm seeing that you struggle against the winning teams, but you beat up on the ones you're supposed to beat up on, I don't know what gives you the confidence that you get. Anthony says you saw that Eagles versus Tampa Bay. Eagles looked lost. Hurts was bad, and they had no receivers. Cowboy fans were crying. Yeah, and that was the funny thing. And that thing that you showed at the beginning, man, I saw that and I was sitting there laughing about it. My wife was like, "What you laughing about?" So I sent it to her and she was crying because I was like, listen, these people were boo-hooing well before the game was decided because they almost felt like, here we go again. They had that look on their face like, I think I've seen this movie before. They're like, I think I've seen this movie before, Rand, but I thought it had a different title. But at the end, it was the same movie. And that's why they started crying so much and looking down and rolling their eyes and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, y'all had to know Stephen A was gonna have some fun with it, had him put the music behind it. The music was hilarious. Like I said, I watched it 3 times. I would have watched it more, but at some point it wasn't even funny anymore. It was just sad. And then even hear Michael Irvin, and you could see it in his face, talking about it just hurt him to his core. It hurt him to see the Cowboy fans in such pain and despair. And I'm like, well, hell, I could have told you that clip was from the last 27 years and you wouldn't have known which year it was. So you should almost kind of be used to seeing them looks from your Cowboy fans.
Didn't hurt me, man. I loved it. I've been laughing at that thing all week long.
I did. When these people cut back up and ran that ball in the end zone, I just jumped up and said, it's over. It's over. They were done. You can say it was because of the refs at the end or this or that and the other. And now I know Dak has already apologized, but it was pretty Bush League, and I get it, heat of the moment. That at first he thought that the fans were throwing trash at them because of the way the game went down. But then once he was told, oh, no, they were throwing it because of the way the refs called the game. And his comment was, well, credit to them, was just really, really bad because you don't ever as a professional want to sit there and co-sign on fans throwing things at the referees and stuff like that. It took him a while, but he did finally come out and express some deep regret. He was getting it hit pretty hard from all sides, including the Referees Association that basically condemned his comments on that, rightfully so. But yeah, you should always know that you lose with your head up. And I just did not like the fact that the first thing him and Mike McCarthy wanted to do was blame the refs, when all you had to do was do something the other 59 minutes and 46 seconds of that game, and you wouldn't have had nothing to say about them referees at all. At all. So, Cowboys, maybe next year, but probably not. Anyway. But you did pay Dak $75 million this year, so there's something. And which, Anthony, you should have added that in because they paid him $75 million this year. So, yeah, there you go. That's what $75 million get you, Rand. Anyway, I don't want to waste all the time because there were some other games that did happen this past weekend, but that was just by far one of the funniest. One of the most impressive was a 47-17, not even that close, thumping that the Buffalo Bills gave to the New England Patriots. Rand, it went from dominant to just plain sad, where I said, Sean McDermott is basically just trying to put it in Bill Belichick's face and put him on notice that we here now. I felt like that was a message-sending game. What was your take on that game?
That's one of those games where little brother finally got the best of big brother. And they've been trying to knock big brother out for a couple of years now. Big brother always comes back and hit them in the face. Not this time. Little brother smacked the crap out of big brother and took his belt. And I think he's going to have his belt for a couple of years.
Yeah. I mean, that was the most efficient that we've seen. Josh Allen, 21-25, ran 308 yards, 5 touchdowns, no picks.
That'll beat anybody.
Boy, Boy, I mean, if you're dropping back, throwing 25 times and you hit 21 of them, and you throw 5 touchdowns, you're going to win a whole lot more games than you lose. It was just a clean game. They beat them in the air. They beat them on the ground. Singletary, 81 yards. Josh Allen ran for 66. McKenzie, 29. So, I mean, they just put it together in the air and on the ground. When you do that, when you can control both phases, it's hard. And we knew that the only way the Patriots were going to have a chance is, again, stay with your identity. You are a running team because you're trying to cover up for a quarterback who is a rookie, who is not going to sit there and beat you yet. You're just not wanting him to lose the game for you. So you got yourself a game manager. He's a rookie. He's learning. You just want him to manage the game. Don't play outside of himself. Lean on your running game. Take the shots that you need to take at the right times, but don't try to play any kind of hero ball because you do not have it in you where they're going to win because of you. The last time they played the Bills and won, they did not win because of him, because he only threw the ball 3 times. They won in spite of him because they did exactly what I just said. They leaned on their running game. Of course, the weather was a big factor in that game and everything else, but the game plan is we could have had me back there as quarterback in that game, and the outcome probably would have been the same because it was not. It had nothing to do with the quarterback play at all. Any quarterback, reasonable quarterback, would have been able to just hand the ball off and let those studs do what they did that game. That just wasn't enough this game. The Patriots, when it came to running the ball, again, they did not run the ball well. Damian Harris only had 30 yards running. Ramondre Stevenson only had 27. Mac Jones ran for 18 himself. And then Kendrick Bourne ran for 14. And that's the line on the running. So, again, if you don't run that ball well and keep Josh Allen on the sidelines, you are not going to win that game. And that's exactly what it came down to is that they could not stop Josh Allen. I think McDermott has really leaned into letting Josh Allen figure out when he needs to throw the ball and when he needs to just use his legs to extend plays and get downfield. And when your quarterback is doing that, that really puts a lot of strain because if the 4-man rush even gets penetration, but they outrun the play, meaning that now the quarterback is in front of them and the corners are covering your receivers downfield, you got a whole lot of green in front of you. And that's exactly what happens. So sometimes when you have like a Micah Parsons or an Aaron Darnold or J.J. Watt, any of those kind of players that are very aggressive to the ball, love to get home on you, the way that you can negate that a lot of times is when they overplay, let your quarterback stay in the middle of the field and just start taking off. That's what Lamar Jackson does to him. They get too aggressive. Next thing you know, you overran the play, and now he's stepped up in the pocket, and he's got a good 7-8 yards in front of him. Okay, well, if it's 2nd and 10, I'll take them 7-8 yards any day of the week. And that's how you stay ahead of the chains.
Yeah, Buffalo was my pick to go all the way to the Super Bowl.
Yep.
So I was like, if they're going to win any game, they got to win this one here and to send a message with this game. And that's exactly what they went out there and did. The AFC East belongs to the Buffalo Bills, and they're going to have that for several years to come, in my opinion. I know Miami is getting a little better. New England will be back. They're always back. But Buffalo is strong on both sides of the ball. Physical football built for the playoffs. Once again, we talking about that.
Yeah, I would almost say that out of all of the teams, even slightly from Green Bay, they're probably one of the most complete teams not only in the playoffs, but in the NFL period. Yep. Because of what they can do in the air and on the ground. If you can't, and you're going against Bill Belichick, who hangs his hat on being able to take away the thing that you do best and make you try to do the thing that you're the least comfortable with and try to beat them that way, was not able to take away either one of the things that they do extremely well, running or throwing the ball.
Yeah, I believe that was Belichick's worst playoff loss.
Yeah.
So that's saying something. That's saying
That
something.
is. And he's been around a long time, so there's been plenty of opportunities for somebody to hang something like that on him, and they haven't been able to do it. So kudos to the Buffalo Bills. I know it's been a long time waiting. Those are some very, very passionate fans up there in Orchard Park. And hey, you know, your Bills are moving on. They're going to have the Chiefs come to them coming up, and we'll talk about that in a second as well. Speaking of the Chiefs, yeah.
Well, yeah. So
I heard I listen to NFL radio a lot when I'm driving, and I heard a saying that was pretty catchy, but as a Steelers fan, you might not like it. But it was kind of funny. He said the headline of that game was, okay, he said, think about it from a restaurant standpoint. 5 guys take down the big burger. And what he meant by that, five receivers scored, I guess, and they took down Roethlisberger or retired the burger. It was what he said. Retired the sends the big burger into retirement. So, but I'm gonna be honest with you. We pretty much knew that if the Steelers played their best game and the Chiefs played their best game, it would still probably be the Chiefs. And it was going to really have to be one of those things where the Steelers were going to have to play their best game and the Chiefs were going to have to create some opportunities for the Steelers to snatch that game away. So, I mean, to me, the better team probably didn't win the game, but the Steelers still had a little bit of fight left in them. And I think they had nothing to hang their heads on. A lot of people, including me, counted them out of the playoffs this year. And like betting against Tom Brady, I don't think I will ever bet against Mike Tomlin ever again because of what he did with that team this year and held them together that way.
Yeah. And this is where me and Cowboy fans kind of got into it in the same regard as when you and, Cowboy fans got into it. They're asking me, well, what about your own team? What about your own team? Y'all lost in playoffs, blah, 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 blah. The difference between us and the Cowboy fans is that we already knew we were going to lose.
Thank you. Expectations.
Expectations. We keep our expectations intact. Kansas City is high-powered offense, and they got a defense that's coming along too. We can barely move the ball. So it's going to take a lot of breaks for things to go our way. It got off that way with TJ Watt, and for those that don't want to give TJ the credit he deserves as far as being the NFL MVP, defensive MVP, I don't know what y'all are watching because he is as effective as some quarterbacks on teams. He is that big of a game-changing individual. So please give him his flowers when it comes to that award, man.
Yeah, so if they don't want to give it to him, I mean, who is heavily being considered other than him?
I would not even know. I really would not even know. A lot of people I've heard want to say the Dallas rookie that had the 10 interceptions. I'm like, okay, how impactful was that though? TJ Watt changes games, literally changes.
Well,
games.
You know what, though, Rand? In some ways, for Dallas, he is their defensive MVP because for Dallas to win games against good teams, they had to rely on their defense making a play. Your defense isn't going to always get an interception in a game. But for Dallas to have any chance at a decent record, they really relied on their defense to either score or give them short fields because a quick change of possession. They really depended on the defense. So that's why they probably saw that. When the biggest thing about your team should have been your offense, the biggest thing about your team was your defense. And that's probably why they thought either Micah Parsons. Now, if Micah Parsons gets NFL Defensive Rookie of the Year, I ain't got nothing. I don't have a problem with that. I have no problem with that at all.
We're not talking about Parsons. We're talking about the
Trayvon Diggs. Yeah, Trayvon.
The one with the 10 interceptions.
Yeah.
Good player, yeah. Game-changing individual, no.
No, because you know what? He gave up a lot of big plays too. People don't like to talk about that. But that's why teams weren't, he wasn't Darrelle Revis, where you say, okay, Darrelle on the right side, I'm throwing to the left side. Oh, Dion is on that side, I'm throwing to the other side. Or Richard Sherman back in the days with the Seahawks. Oh, Sherm over there? Okay, I'm going to go over here. Where basically that side of the field was, they kept throwing on him because, yes, every now and then he going to get you. But more times than not, you could get some big plays off of Diggs. And the reason is that he's hungry and he's young. And sometimes he overplays the play and gets burned because he's so ready to get that pick. See, he got incentives and stuff in his contract too, Rand. So you know what? If I keep every interception I keep getting, that's going to be another bonus. That's going to be this. That's going to be that. So he knows that when he's playing the game. And every play he thinks is going to be a pick thrown his way. And it's not. Sometimes it's just, hey, play for the ball, bat the ball, knock it down, wrap up the receiver if he catches it, all those kind of good things. Don't hold after 5 yards, let him go, all that kind of stuff. Those are the things you need to concentrate on. And if you're in a position to come down with the interception, by all means do so. But he gets a little bit greedy. His eyes get too big. And that's what happens with Diggs a lot of times. So people a lot of times don't like to talk about the fact that, yes, he had all them interceptions, but how many big plays and yards did he give up because they were not afraid to throw the ball to his side of the field? He didn't shut you down like Revis, where it'd be like Revis, what they call it, Revis Island, where people wouldn't even throw over there. They'd be like, oh, that's Revis Island? I'll pass. And they wouldn't do it. They just would not do it. He was not that big of a threat. That's not game-changing. Game-changing is when they double-team TJ Watt. They triple-team TJ Watt, and it doesn't matter.
Right.
He still gets in there. He disrupts. He rushes the quarterback. He runs up their clock inside their head and makes them uncomfortable. You have to know where he is every single play of the game. Cowboy got 2 big rookies that might get paid the same at the same time and watch Jerry Jones mess it up and wait. 2 big rookies. Are you talking about which 2 rookies? Because Diggs is a 2nd-year player. Last year was his first year. Parsons is not going to will get paid, but he's just in his rookie contract. So you got time to work with him. Who was the other rookie, Anthony, that you're thinking about for the Cowboys? And I would be hesitant to pay anybody when Jerry pays you, because after he pays you, I don't know. Oh, he thought Diggs was a rookie. No, Diggs last year was Diggs' first year, because he was. I won't say he was garbage last year, but this was his coming out year. That's why a lot of people think he's a rookie, because he was on the team last year, but he didn't make that impact last year. He got an interception or 2, but he was getting beat badly. And it was really because no preseason, no training camp or anything like that. And he was just trying to figure it out. Plus, you had a different coach. It wasn't Dan Quinn as the defensive coordinator. And the previous coordinator, Nolan, was just terrible, and they got rid of him after the first year. So once they got rid of Nolan and brought in Quinn, I think that was the best thing for that defense. That defense improved drastically. But the offense did not improve from one year to the other. So you pull me back to the Cowboys. Rand, we also did have the Raiders playing the Bengals. It kind of ended the way I thought it would. I felt like the Bengals were going to be the better team. I think the Raiders considering everything that they went through, had one heck of a season. Of course, now they are trying to get management to keep Bisaccia on as the head coach. He is not the coach right now. He's just in limbo because his interim tag fell off as soon as they lost the game. So there's no coach of that team. They are going to interview other people, but the locker room really does like the coach that after the whole Gruden debacle really kept that team together. Now, they did recently also get rid of Mayock, the general manager, and normally that doesn't bode well for a coach because normally when you bring in a general managers like to hire their guy when it comes to being a coach. So we'll have to see what happens with that one. But what did you think about that game as far as with the Bengals?
I thought it played out pretty much the way I thought it would play out. I think we were talking about that last week, and I mentioned I don't think that the Bengals would have I don't think that the Raiders would have the horses to run with the Bengals. I made some type of comment like that.
Yeah.
And they did not. Burrow unaffected in his first playoff appearance, looking like a vet. That kid is as sharp as it comes. He's going to be a problem in the AFC North for years to come. Him and what's the kid in LA? The Chargers quarterback, Herbert.
Justin Herbert, yeah.
Yep, I can see them dueling it out for a decade to come. They're just that good. Ain't no sophomore slump with either one of those kids, man. And Burrow just looking as sharp as a tack. Cincinnati, I know there was a little bit of conflict with that game, the whistleblowing crap that went on, but I mean,
yeah.
That's a touchdown. Come on, just use your common sense. That's a touchdown.
Right.
The whistle didn't blow until the ball was almost in the receiver's hand, so it didn't affect anything. A player never let up. The defender never stopped trying to defend the ball because of a whistle blew. I mean, the guy was pretty much open, and the whistle blew and the ball hit his hand. So for those that want to cry on that one and use that as a technicality, kind of like the Patriots did with Tuck Gate back in the day, come on, man. Just stop it. Just stop it. You guys lost the game. Accept it. Move on.
Exactly.
Move on.
And I mean, they beat you because, again, this is a team that knows their identity. Yes, they throw when they need to, but they also rely heavily on their run. Joe Mixon does what he does. Joe Mixon doesn't get you 100 rushing yards every game. He's a bruiser. He only had 48. But also, when you look at Jamar Chase and you look at just his maturation, he's a rookie. But he had 9 receptions, not 9 targets. He had 9 receptions for 116 yards.
He got about 7 of them in the first quarter, man.
Right. Yeah. I mean, he was lighting it up. And then when you think about it, T. Higgins only had 1 reception. They were covering him up. Tyler Boyd had 4. So Jamar doubled everybody. Joe Mixon had 4 receptions for 28 yards. But yeah, it was the Jamar Chase show.
Yeah.
And they could not slow him down as a rookie. The lights got bright and he stepped up to the challenge. To your point, Joe Burrow, 24 of 34, 244 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. It's a clean game.
That's championship ball.
Clean. I mean, Derek Carr, he put his heart into it, but he threw the ball 54 times, 29 for 54, 310, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. Now, Josh Jacobs, credit to him. He did put up 83 yards rushing. Derek Carr ran for another 20. So they did get over 100 yards rushing for the game, just between what those two did. Like I said, if you're a Raiders fan, I would be very proud of that team. They really hung in there and overcame a whole lot of adversity. You get a lot of those good stories in the NFL, the Raiders being one, my opinion, the Steelers being another one. In some ways, Miami were doing what they did with Flores. Even with all the talk about Deshaun Watson and all these other kind of things. And still going out there and doing what you're going to do. I got, the Texans really ticked me off firing David Culley.
Oh man.
A lot of folks sat there and said, well, he wasn't really qualified to get the job to begin with. And I'm not going to turn this into some things that I saw on First Take, even though they were right. And speak for yourself with Acho and Wiley. But they're right. When you hire Joe Judge, he ain't deserve to be hired.
Hell no.
When you hire Clint Kingsbury, he didn't deserve that job.
Matt Rule. What did Matt Rule do?
Joe Judge got a couple years. Matt Rule. So when you do bring in Dave Culley, and then you say, well, he didn't even deserve the job. Well, there's a whole lot of guys that didn't deserve the job. The only difference is that they were white. So that almost gave them a leg up. We got to do something about making sure that coaches of color get the same kind of opportunities and don't have to prove it twice as hard as their white counterparts. Dave Culley, my God, he didn't have his starter, who was Deshaun Watson. Tyrod Taylor was hurt in and out of the season. You had to bring in your third or fourth round draft pick, Davis Mills, and have him start a whole bunch of games, which, to be honest, a lot of the games Davis Mills played were pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Davis Mills actually, in a lot of games, showed some promise.
And the Texans were in a lot of games that they lost. I know they only won 4, but I mean, come on, man. Those cupboards
Right, they were very competitive. They were very competitive. It seemed like those players played for him. But what do the Texans do but Texans things? Which is why, JJ is gone, which is why D Hop is gone, which is why Deshaun Watson don't want to play for you. The Texans are just a joke right now. I almost think that Jacksonville may end up doing better than them depending on what they do as far as the next coaching hire. But if you hired David Culley just because you were trying to appease Deshaun Jackson, well, how did that work out? But once he got into sometimes, okay, whether we think he's qualified or not to be in the chair, he's in the chair. Now, how do the players respond to him? Bisaccia wasn't chosen to be the head coach. It was John Gruden. But once he got his shot to sit in that chair, he did a stand-up job. So sometimes it's not how you got there, it's what you did with the opportunity. Well, what was the expectations for management for David Culley to begin with? What did you expect when Deshaun Watson, who the year before when you had Deshaun Watson, you know how many games they won that year, Rand?
Sure.
4.
Yeah.
They won 4 games.
Let's talk about that.
So you won the same amount of games this year that you did the year before with Deshaun Watson.
With less talent, less wide receivers, less of a running game, less of a defense, and this man still steps up.
Because you gave your running backs up. You sent Mark Ingram over to back to New Orleans. So then you just had Duke Johnson, I believe, or David Johnson, one of the Johnson boys. So you relied heavily on lower talent. You had no receivers. I mean, my God, Will Fuller was gone. Brandon Cooks was there, but Brandon Cooks give you is like the poor man's Deshaun Jackson. He give you 1 or 2 splash plays, and then you don't hear nothing from him the rest of the game. So Davis did a whole lot with a whole lot less. David Culley did a lot with a whole lot less. I just had to throw that out there because out of all the coaching firings that I saw between him and Flores getting the axe, and Flores, Brian Flores got the axe in Miami. I don't know what you wanted what else you wanted him to do. My God, I just don't know, Rand. But it's crazy. The Rooney Rule was back in 2004, and this was supposed to be able to give head coaches of color more opportunities to interview and be considered for head coaching positions. And at that time, I think there were 4 or 5 in the league. Now there's 1. So how good is the Rooney Rule doing?
It was like you were saying, it was put into play in order to give people an opportunity. So it seems like they're getting the opportunities, but now the leash is short as hell for them. So what good does that do? if you have the opportunity, but you don't have the longevity that your counterparts are having.
Right.
Doesn't do any good. Doesn't do any good.
None at all. So yeah, I just don't know. Houston is a mess, and a lot of it is just it's self-inflicted wounds at this point. It's like it didn't have to be that way, but they just pretty much did it to themselves.
Yeah.
Two other games that we had the Eagles and the Bucks, and we touched on that just a little bit where it just and some of these scores like in the other game with the Patriots and the Bills, they tried to make it a little bit more respectable at the end, but the games weren't even that close. So It was 31-15. But to be honest, those 15 points came in the fourth quarter. It was 31-0 in the fourth quarter. Matter of fact, Tampa didn't even score in the fourth quarter. So through 3 quarters, they had you 31-0. They made it more respectable by scoring 2 touchdowns with Jalen Hurts, 43 passes, hit on 23 of them, 258 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 picks. He didn't even run that well. He only had 8 runs for 39 yards. But if you look at it, the rest of the team didn't run either. Miles Sanders, 7 rushes for 16 yards.
Yeah, right back to the same ridiculousness that we're losing them games at the beginning of the year. So
I don't get it. I don't get what brought you there is what you need to do. That is your identity. I don't understand this thing where you establish who you are, and now it's not good enough.
Yeah.
What is that? Like all year long? Well, not all year, but when we finally started winning games, it was because we established ourselves, Rand, as one of the best rushing teams in the NFL. Now, I get it. Most teams, when they think about Shaq Barrett, Jason Pierre-Paul, Vita Vea, and those guys, Dominican Sue, they don't want to run the ball. But you got to keep them honest, Rand. You got to at least try. You can't just go into the game going, that front is too strong. We're going to do something else, because that's not who you are. You can't all of a sudden try to redefine yourself. Yeah, can you put in a couple of wrinkles, things that they've never seen before? Yes, but you have to stay true to yourself. When you lose your identity or you don't stay true to yourself, that's when you lose. And every team that tried to do that this past weekend lost, not staying true to themselves. New England lost that way. The Eagles lost that way. I'm trying to think. Somebody else lost that way. I'm not thinking about right now. But you got to stay true to yourself. If you don't play your brand of football, what got you there successfully? Oh, I'm sorry. The Cardinals lost. Did not play their brand of football. The touch on that game, Kyler Murray just looked like the moment was just too big for him. You could even see when he was on the sidelines, he looked like he was scared. I ain't never seen him look that scared in my life. Don't get me wrong. When you got Jalen Ramsey on one side, you got Aaron Donald and some of those guys up front, yeah, I'd be scared too. Because all they want to do is come in the backfield and meet you a couple times. Kyler Murray, 19 of 34, 137 yards, no touchdowns, 2 picks. Rand, this is something that I heard Keyshawn Johnson say, and it was something that I said the first couple of games of the season when I kept refusing to give Kyler Murray his due, because I was like, I don't know if this is sustainable. Having such a little quarterback back there that will take off and run, yes, but he's playing the odds that he's just always going to be faster than the defender, and he can escape injury. Well, he did get stung a couple of times. He had to sit out a couple of times, and a lot of it is just because he's not a big guy. The other problem with not being a big guy, and there are exceptions to everything. There's Drew Brees. There's Doug Flutie. There's a lot of guys that are 5'11", 5'10", barely 6 feet tall that played quarterback and overcame that. There's Russell Wilson, one of the best examples. But normally when you're that small, and I think Kyler's like 5'9", when you got Aaron Donald, who's every bit of 6'6", rushing you, and he puts his hands up, how in the world are you going – I mean, you're going to get balls batted down if not picked off. But you're also going to not then be able to see the field. And if you're having to sit there and back up and run just so that you can get a better view of the field, when you get sacked, instead of losing 5 or 6 yards, you lose 10, 12 yards. Or you scramble to one side of the field and you have to back up to get a better vision. You may have a player that's broken free on the other side. You'll never see him get open because you're just too short to see him get open. That's why normally 5'9" means you're probably going to be a defensive back because you're going to be seeing where the ball is coming. I mean, no, you're not going to be seeing where the ball's coming. You're going to be guarding the receiver and figuring out where he's going. But you're not going to be playing quarterback that long because it's going to be hard for you to see over those defenses. So I don't know if you saw that game, but any thoughts on that one?
It was just definitely a game of the lights too bright for Kyler Murray. I mean, big time. I thought that was pretty evident when he was about to get sacked in the end zone. He just threw the ball up. I mean, it's like, come on.
That was just atrocious. Yeah. And you know what? Here's the thing. If it had not been intercepted, he probably would have. It would have been a safety because there was no receiver in the area. It would have been intentional grounding in the end zone, which would have been a safety. But instead of him getting 2 out of it, they got 7. So either way, he screwed himself. He didn't want to take the hit, but dude, I don't know if these teams understand or run these plays from like maybe their 2-yard line where the quarterback has to back up into the end zone and figure out, okay, if I can't get this ball to a receiver, how do I throw it away without making an intentional ground? I just think sometimes they should practice stuff like that so that they give their players real-time situations. Because I've seen that happen too many times where the quarterback tries to get too cute. God, I'm trying to think who I saw do that a couple of times this year. It would tick me. Oh, I know, Sam Darnold. He would do that. Start throwing the ball near his feet, and I'm like, there's no receiver down there. They're going to call grounding. And most of the time they did. And I'm like, oh, my God. Yeah, he did it. Kill me with that. Brad, I think that is all that was. He'll be back, and he will be a problem. That dude can play, and he was missing one of the best receivers in the entire league. Yeah, and it changed the whole outcome of the game. So Brad, here's my question. You knew DeAndre Hopkins wasn't going to play, right? So Cliff Kingsbury, boy wonder, the genius, next to Sean McVay. So if you knew that was going to be an issue where Christian Kirk might get shadowed, Rondale Moore might get shadowed, why not lean on Chase Edmonds and James Conner, who up until that game have been your workhorses from running the ball? Chase Edmonds, 8 carries, 28 yards. James Conner, 4 carries, 19 yards. This is what I was talking about before, where a team gets away from their identity trying to be somebody that they're not. You put it all on Kyler Murray's shoulders. First time in the playoffs. Shorter quarterback, to what you said, Brad, doesn't have one of his best weapons, and yet you're not leaning on your running game. It's the reverse of New England, where you got Mac Jones and you don't want to lean on your quarterback, so you lean on your rushing game. Now, Arizona, kind of in the same way, where you don't want to lean on your quarterback that much because, one of his best receivers is not in the game. And you don't lean on your rushing game any more than that. Your top 2 runners had 47 yards rushing. Now, you may say, well, Brian, yeah, but that's not giving credit to the defense. And I get that. But you got to scheme. You got to have penetration. You got to have your line open up some lanes for your runners. When James Conner gets some good blocking up front, he still can do some serious damage. How many games this year did he have multiple touchdowns in the same game? And Chase Edmonds is not a scrub either. He can get you a lot of yards too. I understand that, when you're going against these fronts like Tampa and the Rams, and you say, hey, I don't know, we ought to run. Running is what got you to the playoffs to begin with. don't let the girl get you there, and then all of a sudden you think it's time to change girls. You win with that girl or you lose with that girl. It was that girl that got you there. Had not been for that girl, you wouldn't have been there to begin with. So why all of a sudden do you sit there? Why, Rand? Why do you sit there and then just say, let's just try something new? We've been the same identity for the last 17 games. Now we're gonna go to the playoffs and try to be somebody else. That'd be like me. All these shows, all season long, I've been black and I show up next week and I'm white. Ain't gonna work. I'm just saying, ain't gonna work. So I don't understand what the shifting of the identities, but I think that played into the hands of the Rams. You know, the Rams did what they do. They're an explosive team. Cooper Kupp, Higbee. You got Odell Beckham Jr. Throwing balls, which I know that just made him feel good. But that was a nice pass he threw. He threw it a little bit behind, but the receiver slowed down enough to catch the ball and go for it. So, hey, just saying, Baker Mayfield maybe should let Odell throw the ball a little bit more.
Yeah,
that's a dig at Baker Mayfield. Just listen.
Yeah, that one was just a couple of games where the lights were too bright for the quarterbacks. I think the lights were too bright for Hurts, definitely too bright for my man in Arizona as well. And there's one other quarterback I was thinking about as well. Primetime football changes things. Playoff football changes things, man. And it's a completely different element. And some don't step up to the podium when it's time.
That is true. All right. Well, we've got 4 games on. We're in the Elite 8, so to speak. Now going into this weekend, we got 2 games on Saturday, 2 games on Sunday. On Saturday, Rand, we've got the Bengals going to Tennessee to face the number 1 seed Titans. I believe Derrick Henry is set to make his return.
Yeah, that's going to help them out tremendously. That's going to be a hard game to pick. That is a straight up 50-50 for me, man. God, that's a tough one. That is a tough one. Cincinnati's on a roll. I know Tennessee's on a roll. Tennessee is at home. They got a better defense. They're a little bit more physical than Cincinnati, but Burrow is the man. Chase is the man. It's a tough one. That is a tough one.
You know, it's really going to come down to who plays their brand of football better.
Yeah.
If Tennessee does what they do better, they'll win the game. If the Bengals get Boyd, T. Higgins, and let Jamar Chase loose again, it'll be a shootout, but it'll be over. I'm going to go with the Bengals because in Burrow, I believe. Who they going into Tennessee, and they going to come back to Ohio with that W.
You say you're wrong.
You got the 49ers going to the frozen tundra of Green Bay, Wisconsin. Talking about tough game.
Another difficult one. Yep, another difficult call. I'm going to give the lean to Green Bay on this one just because of the whole Rodgers and them playing a home deal. I had Green Bay making a deep advance into the playoffs anyway, so I'm going to stick with those guns. Give them a call.
I think Green Bay is more equipped to deal with the physicality of the 49ers than the Cowboys were. Plus, you got to bring that same physicality not to a controlled dome like you did at AT&T, but now you got to go to Lambeau Field. There ain't no dome, y'all. Ain't nothing covered up. And when you get there, don't be surprised if you see more white on the field than green. That's just what happens this time of the year. And they don't reschedule the game. You still play the game in that condition. So it's going to be a little bit different from our boys from California. I know Elijah Mitchell, Trey Sermon, Deebo Samuel, they've been doing their thing. Kittle, they've been doing their thing. I don't know if you're going to be able to physical your way to a victory. I think the defense of the Packers will be a lot more opportunistic. I think Jimmy G is going to have to win that game for them. And I don't think Jimmy G can win that game for them. Chiefs versus Rams, high scoring game that both made history from Anthony. Super Bowl. What's Super Bowl? Anthony, who you got for Super Bowl? So yeah, you got the 49ers, Packers. I'm gonna lean with the Packers too. So I'm calling Packers Bengals on Saturday. And then for Sunday, you've got the Rams and the Bucks. A lot of people are disrespecting the Bucks, man. They counting the Bucks out. They're saying, hey, look, we don't like to bet against Tom Brady, but man, boy, it's Rand, let me think. Tom Brady doesn't have a whole lot of weapons at his disposal. I wonder if he's ever shown where he can overcome that. Let me think. Yeah. 19 years in New England.
Many times.
So listen, on paper, it looks like the Rams should do the thing. The only problem that I've seen with the Rams is when they have a really good game like that, will they follow it up with a similar game? Was there so much pressure for Matthew Stafford to get his first playoff win? Are you going to have anything left for Tampa? Again, a lot of teams don't want to run. Cam Akers was huge in the Rams win this past week. Is Cam Akers going to be able to get free like that against Sue and Barrett and JPP? Yet to be seen. If Leonard Fournette comes back, that's going to give him another rusher, even though Gio Bernard, North Carolina, did an admirable job against the Eagles last week. So if their running game gets healthy, Mike Evans, everybody's kept wanting to discount the fact that Chris Godwin is out and there's no AB. And I'm like, okay, well, they still got Mike Evans. They got Cameron Braid. They got Gronkowski. They got Scotty Miller. Those are no scrubs. They are going to game plan more. Tom Brady is going to probably beat you this way. Short, intermittent passes where he's basically going to use his running backs for screens, use the tight ends for quick passes across the middle and things like that. And any opportunities where Mike Evans is in favorable one-on-one matchups, he's going to throw enough 50-50 balls his way to either come down with the ball or come down with a flag. That's it. If they win, it's going to be because of that and sprinkle in a decent, consistent running game that's going to keep the chains moving. Anthony says, but Tampa Bay played. Oh, I'm sorry. He called Super Bowl Chiefs versus Rams is my Super Bowl picks. Both teams score over 30. So you got the Rams beating the Packers then. And you got the Chiefs beating either you got the Chiefs beating the Titans or the Bengals. Okay. I don't know about that one, but okay. And he said, but Tampa Bay played a bad Eagles game, but you playing a top offense with 4 good receivers and a running game. Yes, but if they nullify that running game and make Matthew Stafford rush, he could be had. Their defense isn't bad. Even their cornerbacks are really, really good at coming away with those balls. So if you make Matthew Stafford have to drop back and start trying to find Cooper Kupp, you know they're going to try to double team Cooper Kupp or spy or shadow on him, even play that too high safety game or that shell where basically he's got to try to throw over that safety. And now Cooper Kupp is talented enough to get past that layer of defense and get a couple of home runs. We'll see if that actually does happen. What do you think, Rand?
Yeah, I don't like going against Tom Brady in this instance. I am going to go against Brady. I think the Rams got the defensive backs to lock up the receivers. If Tampa had Godwin, if they had AB, I'd feel a whole lot different about this game. But they don't obviously have those receivers, so I'm going LA for this one.
There you go. All right. And then last but not least, we got the Bills and the Chiefs. Who you got in this one?
So once again, I had the Bills going to the Super Bowl. In order for my prediction to be right on that, they're going to have to knock off these boys that gave them so much trouble last year in the AFC Championship game. Hopefully they learned their lessons from last year and they can apply those lessons to this year.
Man, I'm going with the Bills. I'm rocking with the Bills. even though in the preseason I picked Chiefs and Tampa, you know, I could sit there and double down and say, hey, no, I'm just going to ride out with what I said. But watching Josh Allen's trajectory and Mahomes' trajectory this year, they're not the same. Josh Allen's been the better complete player this year. They've been the better team all year. They have had some hiccups. They've had some bad losses, Jacksonville. But overall, they've been more of a complete team all season. I'm going to ride with them. And I think it's going to be the Bills coming out on top of the Chiefs by maybe 3 or 4 points. So how do y'all see it? Let us know in the comment box. But yeah, it should be a very, 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 very great weekend. Brad says 4 really good games this weekend. Pizza on Saturday and wings on Sunday. That's it. What about the nachos, Rand? You got the nachos in there too, right?
Yeah, throw them nachos in there too, man.
Both my gosh. And of course, most importantly, your favorite beverage, whatever that may be. But you can't go wrong with a Corona and lime, I'm just saying. But yeah, man, so it's going to be a great week. Even if your team isn't in it, it should be great as a football fan to watch. Now we can all mark ourselves safe another year from hearing we them boys or how about them Cowboys, and we can move on and watch some real football now. Sorry, I had to get one more dig in. I opened that way, I got closed that way. But anyway, Rand, as always, thank you very much. Thank y'all for tuning in for another episode of Head to Head. We do this every week, so we look forward to seeing you guys next week. Y'all take care. Thanks.